So, hi, coaches. We were just sitting here, everybody who's listening in, we were just sitting here talking a little bit about our identities and how being an adoptive mom, especially of a child with reactive attachment disorder, um, how that has messed with and reshaped who we think we are and who we think we're supposed to be and our expectations of ourselves and maybe what we've thought the world has these expectations on us. And so we are just sitting here talking a little bit about when you are parenting a child who can't receive the love or give back any love, and so the bond just isn't there as hard as you try. If you have put your identity into that, it can really mess with you. So let's just talk about that a little bit. Do you guys know what I'm talking about?
Oh, yes, we know. Yes, we know.
How did that impact you?
I mean, I think it impacted me because for years, identified myself as a mom, not only as a wife, but mostly as a mom. And I spent my days with my kids and gave up my career for my kids. And so, when I was realizing that my former adopted daughter and I were not bonding, it was like, what's happening here? And it felt foreign. It felt forced. It felt fake. It felt, why can't this just be happening naturally? And I knew because, that they're coming from a place of deprivation, most likely. And I knew that it was going to be slower for her. Um, so I didn't feel like I needed to rush it. But then I soon found out that she was rejecting any type
Right.
of affection. And so then I would be in public and it would switch to this overly charming version of her, and she would lure everyone in. And then when I would talk to people about the fact that she wouldn't do this or wouldn't do that, then it's like, well, what do you mean? You must be too strict, or you must be too this, or you must be too that. You sort of start to second guess, am I a good mom? Why can't I bond with this kid? My other kids and I have a bond. Why can't she do that with me?
Yeah. What
Yeah.
about you, Amy?
Oh goodness. I had the same mom identity too. I think that through my healing process, I came to realize that I had some idols in my life that I had put other things before the Lord, and that was one of them. And how that came to be is, that touches all the other areas of life. But I I think I tried to be I knew that I was a good mom, and my heart was in it. I loved it and I love them. Like I love them. And I want them to know that. Uh and the education that we got with the adoption was that you have to keep their world small, that you have to prove to them that like you are the one, and so you're the only one that can feed them, you're the only one that can bathe them, you need to do all these things, and they'll eventually, they'll know you're the one. um
Theoretically.
they d-
Didn't
it
work
was
that way.
just, it was just too much for me, that being in the cocoon uh really stripped me of my coping mechanism, which was, I'm such an extrovert. So being with other people kept me grounded. And so going into that cocoon, and we got to the end of the first year by the skin of our teeth. And I remember taking a video I had made a cake. My girls were from India. So I had a elephant cake, and I was just trying to, do something to be so happy that we made it through the first year. And I had told myself that, okay, it's going to get better from here. So I'm like selfie in the family. And I looked at my husband and I said, uh, you know, first year is in the books, no worse for the wear. We made it, no worse for the wear. And it went down from there. It just kept going down. It didn't get better.
Yeah. So what
Um,
happens within yourselves when your identity was as mom, as wife, as whatever, outside of child of God? What happens when that gets stripped? I mean, we're not talking about like when you just didn't quite measure up.
Mhm.
We're talking about when that gets to a point where literally you cannot parent your child cannot tolerate you trying to parent them, this child needs a new family, you're done. You
Mhm.
cannot do this. It's not safe, it's not healthy for anybody. So here you've tried, you've poured in, you've poured in, you've poured in. Your identity was wrapped up in this, and now everything that you tried has failed.
Mhm.
Who are you now?
Yeah, I think it strips you down to your core. I think that, and I think probably for all of us, our story started long before they came home, right? So, you announce that you're adopting, and then you might be fundraising, or you might be doing things to raise money, or you might be whatever, right? Having a party. Um, and so there's this big fanfare before the event. And then when you realize that this isn't going right, and it's slowly slipping out of your grasp, and then you start to feel judgment, and then that affects it's like, why can't I get this together? Why can't I do this? I think I held on to so much trying to control it and trying to make it right. And when I knew it couldn't go any further, it really just stripped me down to nothing, because I
Yeah.
thought, if I can't be her mom and I can't get this figured out, who am I?
Yep.
And all the
Yep.
world is looking at us.
Feels that way anyway. Yeah.
Figure it
Your
out, Jen.
world.
our world is,
Mhm.
our world was looking
Looking
at
at
us
us,
for sure.
and
Yeah.
we can't figure it out. And so what does that reduce us to? It reduces us to God and to us, right?
Right. How about you, Amy?
I didn't realize until we're talking about this, but when we finally made that, well, first I do want to say that when I realized that it was going badly, I tried harder.
Mhm.
And my
Yes.
husband in the
You're
second year
here.
was like, they can't be together. And I was like, you just don't love her as much as I do. So I attacked the marriage, I attacked him, and which was oh my gosh, such a mess. So that whole second year was super hard to even be able to figure it out. It wasn't until the third year where the Lord put the writing on the wall for me, because I was willing to start looking at the wall, that I could see that they needed to be separated. But I um, went to work. First time in 16 years, I went to work full time as a fourth grade teacher
Mm.
in a private school. And so I didn't do that on purpose. I sought out the job to get we needed more Jesus. I was still trying harder.
Mhm.
We just need more Jesus and it will be fine. I went in there and I said, I will perfectly consider anything. And by that, I meant like, I'll be your janitor.
Right.
And the principal was like, I want you to be my fourth grade teacher. And so I did what I had to do. I was saving my family. And that crashed my body. It filled my spirit and crashed my body. I was just constantly out of balance, always self-salvation,
Yeah.
and so I don't know that I tried to reinvent myself, but that's what happened, sort of, is that I didn't have time to deal with the crash of my mom identity, and I just added another identity to it and
Mhm.
worked. And so it was the end of that year that my body let like I couldn't get out of bed. We moved. My husband's in the military, so we moved, and it was the year after that, um, after the relinquish, that I could I
Yeah.
and that is when I met Jesus for you
For
know,
reals.
in the depths of, and that's when I came to realize that I had some idols
Yeah.
ahead of him.
Yeah. I remember when things were so hard, and I was kind of trying to find something that I was good at because I felt like I was failing at everything at home. I was not a very good wife. I was not a very good mom. And so I was in direct sales, and I did very, very well with this. And I mean, to the point where like it was an idol to me as well, because I loved going to my shows because everybody there loved me. And at home, nobody really wanted to be around mom much. So I did that for a long time. And over time, I started feeling God kind of telling me, you need to step down. And it made no sense because I was at the top of my game. And I remember even feeling people saying, well, you could just kind of go inactive. You don't have to like resign. And I felt God saying, no, you need to resign. I needed to boldly cut it. And it was scary, and it was, but it left me there just with God. And there's two little quick things I want to share with you. One time I remember I was laying on my couch. I just quit sleeping for a couple of months, just for fun, for kicks. Nothing better to do. I just think I'll stay awake all night. I mean, I was so exhausted. I could hardly do anything. We had people coming in to help with our family at this point because I was a mess. And I was laying there on the couch one time, and I just remember I had some worship music on, and my eyes, I couldn't even open my eyes. They hurt so bad. I was laying there, and I was having a conversation with God, and I felt him saying something like this. It was like, even if all you ever do for the rest of your entire life is eat and poop, I would not love you any less than I love you like right now. And even if you did everything, I would never love you anymore. It's not about what you do for me. It's about the fact that you're here with me, in relationship with me. And that did something to me. It's like your identity is because you are mine. It is not about how famous you are or how much you earn or whether you're the greatest mom or the best wife, or none of it matters. It's just that relationship. And the other thing I wanted to share was when we were looking at relinquishing our son, which was the hands down the most painful season of my life. I would never wish it on anybody. And yet, as we know, we walk families through this all the time because it's a reality and it's happening. And she said to me, my therapist said to me, if you or anybody else in your life has put you on a pedestal, she said, I want you to climb down and get in the dirt real quick. And I just remember being terrified about, like, what does that mean? What do you mean get in the dirt? And then I just realized, like, if I'm thinking I'm better than I am, if I'm thinking I'm more than just literally somebody that just Jesus is hanging on to keep me from drowning, if I think it's because of me, or that I'm so smart, or I'm so great, or I'm so intelligent, or whatever, I need to quit it. Because when we announce that this is coming, the shame and the judgment are coming. And if my identity is being found in anything other than my relationship with Jesus, I won't make it. I literally will not make it. And I think you guys feel the same. I mean, I could have died. The pain was so deep. The judgment and the condemnation were so severe. The pain of losing him, but also not being able to stand having him in our home, the self condemnation, all of that was so severe that if I didn't have Jesus literally just holding me and telling me to just breathe and he'd get me through, I don't know what I would have done.
Yeah.
I didn't have a heads up like that. I didn't get all that until after,
You got smacked down and then he met you there.
Right. And I just think, trauma survivors, especially complex PTSD, is really rooted in whatever's happening now is on top of like this thing from your past, usually from childhood. And so I had this blind spots that like I was just doing what I've always done, and it's always worked before, and it just wasn't working. And so coming to realize that I had idols and that I had pride, it was a version of pride that thought that I could do these things. I mean, because I'd always been expected to do them as the eldest, in the situation that I grew up in. And so if it's expected of you, you're conditioned to believe that you can, and so you do, and you're also like, it's not an option not to.
Right.
It's
Right.
you just keep doing it.
Yeah.
It's just this way that we think about it's really small, and there's so many blind spots, and so I what a relief,
Ah.
what a painful relief to
Mhm.
get those opened up and for God's light to shine in and to tell us that he loves us
Yeah.
and that we don't have to do that. We don't have to save ourselves. We don't have to save our families.
Mhm.
We don't have to. He is in the saving business, and
Yes.
we are allowed to be saved. It's
Yeah.
our turn. And
Mhm.
it's been so beautiful between him and me since then. But it was so hard. So
Yeah.
hard.
That's such a good description.
And I think you don't go through these experiences and have, your pride not dismantled. I mean, I think it's part of the process with God. It's like, okay, well, this is going to be really, really hard, but at the same time, you're going to have to set your pride down, and
Yeah.
Yeah. And, you know, for me, and I hope for you guys, it's like, I believe that it was so severe that I will never ever lift that pride back up again. But I'm also not so arrogant to think that that's true. And so every day it's like getting in the dirt every day. It,
Yes.
it was really painful the first couple of times because you lifted yourself up pretty high and now you got to bring it down pretty low. But when you kind of live in the dirt, and by saying that, it's just meaning that I really work hard to not lie. I work hard to not misrepresent myself. I work hard to not be bigger than I am. And but that takes like every single day, God, search me. Is there anything in me right now that's unpleasing to you? And after the trauma, that was hard to ask because I was afraid of the response because I thought it was going to hurt more and I just couldn't handle any more pain. But God is so good. He'll give it to you in a very gentle voice. And I mean, to me, even I hear sometimes like, well, sweetie, there's this thing over here. Like he's really gentle. He doesn't come along and go, yeah, you're being a total jerk. He doesn't say that. He's very, very gentle with trauma victims, especially, and that's been so helpful to me because now I can sit with him every morning and say, okay, God, search me, get anything that is not of you out of me because I don't want it. It about took me out before. I don't want anything that is not of the Holy Spirit in me. And I think we'll end there. That sounds like a good place to stop. We'll join this conversation again with another topic on another day. Everybody come back and we'll share more conversations with the coaches in the future. Thanks for joining us.